Hi everybody, my lovely process of illumination audience, I guess. I'm out here on the boardwalk in Toronto's beaches, balmy beach, and I've been thinking a lot today and for the past week about what I was going to write about this week. I know that I didn't post anything last week, and thought I'd try something different. I think I mentioned that sitting down to write takes a lot of time, and thankfully, gratefully, things are picking up a little bit work-wise, so I do have a lot of things to focus on. I have to revise a lot of things, so I wondered, and all I really wanted to do was come down to the beach this morning and just watch the people go by and see the kids playing in the water. By the way, the water is gorgeous today. Can I flip it, or can I just show it to you? It's not only beautiful to look at, but the temperature is amazing. And I went in for a little bit, not fully, but really enjoying just sitting here. It's so peaceful. And listening to families, just listening to how families interact. And, you know, how siblings take care of each other and what they're playing, you know, what games they're playing, what kind of fantasies or make-believe that they're doing. And what I noticed was how, I don't know, I guess how, I haven't really fully thought this through, but I was listening to an interaction between a girl who must have been about 8 or 9 and I guess a boy who was not her brother, a little bit younger. And he was asking her, he was telling her that her mom had requested her to go back to where they were sitting. And just the whole negotiation between them, which wasn't bad or anything, but you know, they had a whole world going on over there on the rocks, and they had to figure out, you know, who was going to take care. I think there might be a raccoon trapped, a baby raccoon, trapped among the rocks. I'll show you again. So there's that rocky spit, and the kids like to play on that, but I think they might have found a raccoon, and I heard them talk about that the animal control, wildlife control had to come. And you know, it was just these two little kids just organizing this whole scenario and really being conscientious of who was going to watch the raccoon if she went back to her mom and you know, did whatever her mom needed her to do. Would he be able to stay behind and watch the raccoon? At first I thought they were talking about a little brother or a little sister, but they were actually taking care of this raccoon. And yeah, and it took maybe, and I wondered about the mom waiting over on the blanket on the grass just behind where I am now, wondering if she was like getting annoyed that her daughter didn't come right away. But I imagined that she probably knows her kids, and they seem very, you know, that they have freedom and that they have a sense of responsibility, and that they, you know, they know the boundaries and all kinds of things. Okay, there's a big Great Dane barking at a little girl, kind of scary because it's massive. But yeah, and I don't know, it just made me think of my own motherhood, made me think of things that I'm processing right now, going through I'm going to get a little bit emotional, but going through a transformation imperative that I think is really necessary for me, for sure, and such an an enormous opportunity right now in the times that we're living in. Things are breaking down. Yep. In a good way and in a not good way. Things are breaking down. In a good way, it means that the foundations that we have built up over the course of our lives, as a therapist, that's one of the things that I've been working at for decades, is, helping myself and people evaluate the foundations that we've built our lives upon, and a lot of it is faulty, a lot of it is misguided, a lot of it is full of wounding and trauma, and that leads to really difficulties making accurate choices in life, and being deceived, and not really understanding what it takes to truly move forward from that. I posted a little thing on Facebook. I'm not really posting on Facebook anymore. I'm not really looking at Facebook or any social media anymore. I post things for work and just for inspiration purposes, but it's not a pastime that I really want to invest any of my precious time in. But I did post something yesterday because I was listening to a meditation, a biblical meditation that was talking about transformation, and quoting Bible verses. It was very, very uplifting. But part of the meditation, the guided part of it, near the end, was trying to imagine or visualize or think back to people that I know, or that the listener knows, that have gone through a major transformation process, and just thinking about them and thinking about their process. And I was kind of surprised, I guess, that I couldn't really think of anybody that I knew that has gone through the kind of transformation process that I'm going through. And that doesn't mean anything bad about anybody else. I mean, everybody's changing, everybody's transforming, everybody's working really hard on themselves. I mean, I admire everyone I know who is really committed to their own growth, right? And I'm talking about something that is beyond that is even more difficult than that. And that is like deep personal transformation, where you are not the same person on the other side of it, or even, in stages going forward. You're a completely different person in terms of your values and in terms of how you see the world, and how you choose to behave. And believe me, this transformation process is it's wonderful. I mean, it's very freeing, and there's a tremendous amount of joy in it, because you really do shed so much of things that most people, myself included, have always felt were necessary or good. But you realize that it's just that's not the focus anymore. And so it takes a tremendous amount of humility and sacrifice. And I couldn't really think of a lot of people that I've watched. Now, I don't mean people who have done it and that I've met them on the other side of it. There's lots of people like that, especially people that, in my church, for instance, like amazingly courageous and faith-led people who are really committed to real personal transformation. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people who I know who have watched go through the transformation. So I knew them before, and I see them now, and and I can really gauge how dramatic that change is. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think people that know me have probably seen that. I hope they have. Part of what I really want to learn, well, not learn, but embrace and not feel ashamed of, is being comfortable just allowing myself to not hide that anymore. I think in a lot of ways I have hidden it, not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I have always wanted to just keep things status quo in my interactions, I guess, and maybe in my relationships as well. And probably I fear that I'll be judged or misunderstood. And I love the people that I love. I wouldn't want to cause anything that would jeopardize my friendships. And I think the people closest to me understand that. They understand how I've changed. But I don't know if they understand how. I was sharing the other day, we were talking to a friend just about another friend, and talking about burden, and I mentioned the word burden and saying, like, maybe what that person needs is a change in perspective so that they don't see this lovely blessing that they're responsible for as a burden, because there's a lot going on in their lives. And I felt that I had to explain or define what I mean by burden. It's a word that's widely used in our faith community, and I think in a lot of Christian communities. Burden is not something that's bad. It's not something that, there certainly are bad burdens, but I think in the case that I was referring to it is just something that you carry. And sometimes you carry things on behalf of other people because that's what they need, because they can't carry it themselves. And sometimes you carry a burden that is just, it involves your own personal sacrifice. It's a burden because you know with every fiber of your being that you need to change, and you need to become an example of what true transformation and godliness looks like. And I also said humility. So I don't want this to sound in any way that I'm better than anyone else, because that's so far from the truth. I'm so flawed and so human. And it's a lot of work. It's joyous work. It's a deep commitment. But it's necessary. I couldn't imagine ever not doing this work. So that's what I've been dealing with. That's what I've been wrestling with God. I'm just so grateful that I have that peace amidst the struggle, amidst the sacrifice, amidst the need to remain humble and to level myself, put myself on the same level as any other human being on this earth. Amidst all of that, there's so much joy and peace and comfort knowing that more than I know anything else. That is the path. That is the right path. And, I would love to preach all the time, to evangelize all the time about what I've discovered in Christ. And maybe I will more. And I know that my friends, I've shared stuff with my friends, but I always hold back because I don't want to alienate anyone or offend anyone or have anyone think that I'm trying to convert them, because while in my heart I pray for that, I know that we are all individuals, and my journey coming to Christ was very resistant, very skeptical. So I'm always reminded of that. That's one of the great gifts of having lived the life that we live, even if it's a terrible, sinful life. And let me also define sin as well, because I think there's a lot of people who, the word has been misrepresented in a lot of ways, and really it just means going outside of the path, out of the design that God created for us. That's all it is. And it's nothing to be, to beat ourselves up about, unless, we are not heeding our own awareness of the fact that we are doing something that is unhealthy for us or is outside of what God created us to be. Now I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want anyone to feel that I was trying to convert them, because I'm not perfect, and I do pray for that for everyone that I know and for everyone in the world. But I understand that people are people, and I went through my journey, and I look back on things and I deeply regret a lot of things, and I didn't think so at the time. I thought I was just, that was life, and I think I've generally been a pretty good person overall, but I know that I'm selfish, and I know that I'm controlling, and I know that I'm, I can rub people the wrong way, and I'm no different from anybody else. We all have our things. I've hurt people deeply, made huge mistakes that I can't correct because it's not in my power to correct them. I can apologize, and I can, be humble, and but if people are unwilling to forgive me, then that's out of my control. It's in God's hands. But all this to say that God had me in the palm of his hand from the time I was born. I didn't know it. I always knew he was there. I don't know why. It wasn't something that was taught to me. And I thought that I was doing the right thing. I thought that, just doing what I was doing was good enough. So that brings me to now, when I'm talking about personal transformation, that's what I mean. I mean that I now have a much deeper understanding, thanks to my relationship with God, that he's revealed to me things that are okay, mostly okay, but it's not what he's designed for me. It's not what he wants for me. And he's called me without a word, without a moment of doubt. He's called me. If you had asked me 5 years ago, I'd be sitting here, that I'd be praying every day, worshiping God, speaking to Christ, going to church. Like, never in a million years. Never in a million years. I thought I had it all figured out and under control. And the only thing that I can say to explain that is that he found me. He called me. He put me in situations where I had to pay attention. He used my love for my children. He used, these are all gifts that he's given me. My love for my children, my commitment to personal growth for myself and for others, my open-mindedness to be able to imagine another possibility and to consider another possibility, and my willingness to experiment. And that's how I got here, is that I was willing to say, okay, what if this is true? I don't think it is. I think what I believe is true. But you know what? Let's give it a try. Let's see what would happen if I gave away all my idols and Buddhas, and I was very into New Age. If I just removed all these things, which are divination tools, which are not what God wants. God wants us to rely on Him, not tools, not things that have us worshiping. I didn't sit in front of Buddha and worship it, but I did believe that, tarot cards and readings, like psychic readings and meditation and yoga and all that stuff, I did believe, and chanting. I did believe that was all doing good things for me. But what I realized is that it was only temporary. It wasn't sustainable. It was something that I had to keep re-believing in my head or just reinventing. And that there was a lot of illusion around it, illusion of connectedness. And it wasn't until I experimented and sort of moved away from all of that temporarily at the time, because I didn't think it would be permanent. And I just said, okay, God, it's you and me. Because I've always believed in Him. I've always talked to Him. So it's you and me. Show me what you got, basically. And that's when He really began to show me how present He was in my life and is in my life. He completely changed my heart on issues that I had struggled with, and deep wounds and desires and longings that I thought I had control over. But there are 3 areas. I always say it's like the trifecta: finances, partnerships, and body image. And the first thing that He worked His miracle in is relationships. I no longer felt like I needed to be in a partnered relationship. It's not to say that I wouldn't want that, but I thought I was wounded. I thought that I couldn't do it without a partner, that it was too hard. And He showed me that He was my partner. And all that longing and all that desire just melted away. Just completely, overnight, melted away. And people that know me know that. They know that I went from actively dating one minute to not even giving it a second thought the next minute. And my convictions and my outlook about intimacy changed as well. That's a whole long other conversation. But I feel so blessed. I feel so much more complete now that there's somebody next to me singing. She's got her headphones on. She's just singing. So sweet. Love that. So yeah. Well, we're at 24 minutes now. I think that's long enough. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I feel better. It feels right. It feels so right, as my friend would say. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being there. I don't know how many of you there are who actually read my blog, but I'm always surprised to hear when someone says, oh yeah, I read your blog, or when I get an email of encouragement. So, love you guys, as we do at church. This is, I think, a Korean thing. It's like a heart. I write my blog for me. As you can see, it's called Process of Illumination for a reason. I really do process. But I also do it as to be an example of what it looks like to humble yourself and be vulnerable. Because it's really not easy. It's always hard. But it's always so good. It's always so healing and helpful. And if I can help somebody else in that process, in my own process, then wow. So I really love Derek Sivers. He's a writer, he's an author, and a bit of a personality, and he always encourages people, when he's interviewed on a podcast or when he's writing his blog, he always encourages people to write to him, and he really prioritizes responding to people, and I love that, and I encourage you to do the same. Don't be afraid. If anything, I hope that me sharing my heart with you, my process with you, is that it only makes you feel more able to reach out. Because we need each other. As I said at the beginning, this world is changing. And one of the principles that I've been learning, sorry, I dropped my pen, in church is it's about small groups. It's about connecting. So, and I find that so liberating, because I'm the kind of person that kind of takes on everything for everyone in my heart. I may not look like that way. Sometimes I kind of ghost people, but it's usually because I'm working on it, but it's usually because I'm overwhelmed by whatever that person is going through, or I'm overwhelmed in my own life, and that is just like one more thing that I can't deal with, and I've had that forever. So that's definitely in my foundation that needs to be corrected. But with the small groups, just having small groups of people, in COVID, maybe we call it bubbles. I really don't want to bring COVID terms into my vernacular, to be honest, because but yeah, small groups so that we can connect authentically, deeply, one-on-one, and really get a lot of different perspectives from other people, and really understand what each other's going through, and to be compassionate, and to be open-minded, and to be bold enough to share our perspective. Because if people hadn't been bold enough with me, if my son hadn't been bold enough with me to share what the transformation that he was going through into Christianity, which scared the life out of me. I thought he was going to join a cult, honestly. If he hadn't been bold enough and humble enough and authentic enough and articulate enough, if we hadn't had that relationship, if I hadn't been open-minded enough and concerned enough and devoted enough, those conversations would have gone a very different way. And our relationship was troubled for a long while, and Christ healed that. And I feel funny saying that. I feel funny saying Christ healed that, because I think people are going to go, don't use the C word. And I think that's largely my stuff, right? I mean, it is other people's stuff too, but it's definitely my stuff. So this is me just trying to figure it out, trying to find a way to speak my truth in a way that is honest and authentic and vulnerable, and hopefully not offensive. It's not my intention at all. Like I said before, I pray for everyone, but it's not my job to convert anyone. That's God's job. And if any of this strikes a chord, if any of this, positive or negative, if you feel resistance to any of this, or if you feel drawn in by any of it, curious about any of it, check in with yourself. I'm not telling you to go anywhere. I'm not telling you to go to church. I'm not telling you to come and talk to me or join a group or whatever, unless you want to. I'm saying do what I did. Talk to God directly. Even if you don't know Him. Just talk to Him. And make it like an experiment. It's like you can't lose anything. Right? And you may gain everything. So, I'll leave it there. Thank you again. You guys are awesome for listening. I pray for you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, a wonderful week. And if you like this format, please let me know, because I certainly love it. This was awesome, sitting here looking at the lake and talking to you quietly. So, I love you all in Christ. God bless you. Take care.